Go.
Hey guys, it's Kaiser here. Here with something kind of. I want to declare this as like an experimental segment that we've kind of talked about for a long time, but quite frankly, I haven't had the time until recently. So, I'm gonna call this deck building with Caiserxs, or just deck building with insert name here, depending on who we asked to do this. But we thought it'd be fun today if I tried to build a deck from scratch that Skynet has a very different sort of take on, or that we just have different views on the game, so we think differently. So I wanted to give you some insight on how I build decks and how it might help you inevitably. Alright, so when I build a deck, the first thing I do is I always have to decide, before I look at any of like the starters, triggers, or whatever, I have to decide what my win con or my main grade 3 will be. And for today, we're going to be doing D-Robo, so naturally, I have True Die Kaiser over here. And so, naturally, it's a Legion card, so I need to pair it with at least one Dayusha. So, when I build a deck, I usually say, okay, what's the minimum of everything that I need? And then I work from there. So I need one Dayusha at least. And obviously, in a deck where it's heavily based around grade 3s, I want to play more than that. So, for me, I would probably play for the Break Ride, because that's a win con as well, and I like flexible options in a deck. So I would probably play 4 Die Kaiser and 4 True. And now 9 grade 3s, that's kind of a weird number, and also I have horrible luck, so knowing me, this Dayusha would hit damage at some point, so I'm going to play 2 Dayushas. So I have 10 slots out of, let me think, I have 10 slots filled up right now. So now I know where I can go from there. So that's my grade 3s. I typically work in a weird order. So I have my grade 3s set. So now I know that that's the focus of my deck. Right? So now I'm going to go to my starter. Now I have a few options in front of me, and each has its benefits and blah, blah, what have you. But I'm going to eliminate Cosmic Hero Grand Seed out the gate because it is not a D-Robo. And in this deck, you want to have either a D-Robo on field or in Soul. So I would not recommend playing this. So that's out. I typically, when I deck build, I think immediately what's in, what's out. Die Magnum, I would probably, and Goyusha, I would take out immediately, even though Die Magnum is okay if you're playing against control, but really nowadays, this deck has become a lot more stride-centric than Legion, so I would take it out. Goyusha is basically an earlier version of this on some level, but this is better. Or, what's it called again? Is it Diehawk? Yeah, Diehawk. So, take that out. So really, in my opinion, you have two options. You can play Dieshoot or Diehawk. In my build today, I'm going to go for Diehawk because the ability to pretty much just stride first no matter what is a ridiculously powerful mechanic. So we have that slot taken care of now. The next thing I do is triggers. So it's important, because we're playing Diehawk, that we play all dimensional robo triggers. And we have essentially this. To me, I don't think stands really fit the deck because inevitably I'm going to end up playing Laurel at some ratio because Laurel's really good in stride format. So I'm going to take out the stands. That's my trigger lineup. So 844, it's pretty standard, but it's very balanced and, in my opinion, complements D-Robos pretty well. So that's, my triggers are taken care of, my starter, my grade 3s. That's great. So now I'm going to hit up the grade 1s because that's pretty important. So the first thing that we always consider staple are perfect guards, right? So that brings up the debate of, do I want to play Die Shield or do I want to play an unflipping perfect guard? Now, in Sky Knight's old build, he would play the unflippers. However, now, because of Diehawk, you kind of want the D-Robo name. So I'm going to recommend, or at least I'm going to make the executive decision for me, that I will be playing 4 Die Shields. Okay, next thing that we would consider stable would be Stride Enablers. Now, in this deck where we're playing an up to grade 3 ratio, and we're able to potentially, depending on the build I end up deciding, recycling them, I'm not going to play this because, once again, D-Robo names are very important in this deck. So now I'm just going to go card by card that I have in front of me. Go Cannon. This card is super YOLO-y, and for me, I did not think I could handle playing this, so I'm just going to say no on that. Next, we'll do Dielander. This was better back in the day with Dayusha, but I don't think it should see play now. Alright, so now we start getting into some, basically in my opinion, like non-negotiable stuff. I feel like die line is still important. Now, the amount of die lines I will end up playing, I'm going to have to figure out in a minute, because I have to figure out everything I want to play and how I can make it a nice even ratio on some level. So die line, I want to play, for sure. Other staples. Laurel. Now, unfortunately, we only have 2 laurels today, but usually I'd play more, but 2 should do the job just fine for now. You can play Die Tiger, but I feel like they're better things for the deck right now. This is good against anti-rush, but I don't know. I feel like I would not play Die Tiger, personally. Now, this is a card that I feel like seeing a lot more play now. Weaking. I really like this card a lot. I'm a big fan of interactions during either player's turn, and I think this card has a lot of defensive potential, and especially with Diehawk throwing units into the Soul, you have more units to Soul Blast, and you're not really legioning with this deck as much, so it warrants at least a spot. So non-negotiable cards that I would like to include. And then, let's see, so we're at 6, we're at 10, or math is hard, we're at 8 currently. So I have to figure out ratios on this. I want to see die line often, so I'm going to go on a limb here and say 3 right now. So that's 7. This is 10. I would like to hit... I'd like to get to 13 grade 1s. So we're at 10. You could cut die line, actually. I'm gonna revisit this in a second. I want to play at least 2 Weakings. I want to see it. However, I don't want to ride it, as I do not want to ride Laurel. Riding either of these is not very good, in my opinion. And having, once again, with the fact that you need so many D-Robos, you don't want to... I believe mathematically this is found out, like, you don't want to play more than 10 non-archetype things in a deck if it requires certain things for that. So, I'm going to go and say 2-2 for now. Once again, for now. So we're at 8. Yuka. I kind of like this as a choice. It gives, if I remember correctly, choose one of your other... Okay, so it helps hit numbers, potentially. And give something 4K, so it doesn't just have to be the Vanguard. I think I like utility cards like this a lot, and it can either help with a push early game, if you end up using Diehawk and starting into something early, or you can start hitting numbers on the rear guard, which is very threatening in a deck that generally is down the middle. So I'm going to go 3 for now. So we're at 7, we're at 11. So at this point, I would probably play a few more Laurels, but in this case, maybe I'll up to Yuka to 4. I'll try 4 Yuka, and I'm going to go, because once again, you're not really aiming for the Legion mechanic in this as much, and when you Legion, it's usually when you break ride, and you, this is hard actually to kind of like do on the fly. This is very interesting hearing me talk out loud about this. Let's see, I don't know if I feel comfortable not playing die line. But then it's, just to give you insight on how I think, I don't really like playing a lot of tech cards, or quote tech, as in like you're playing a lot of different things in your zone. So I don't really like getting really techy with my decks. So I find it very difficult for me to kind of do something along the lines of like, something like this and maybe, but this might be okay. Alright. I'll revisit this later. I'll keep some of these cards aside. So for now, I'm going to say that this will be my lineup, and then I'll come back and revisit later. I make a lot of edits as I go along. So 13 grade 1s, that's okay. So my last kind of main deck thing is my grade 2 lineup. Okay, so let's see. Diehard, don't really think this really fits the deck personally, so I would not play that. Die Driller, it kind of fits in a Die Lander. It was better back in the day. Alright, so non-negotiable card right here. We're playing 4 Dijet. Dijet is super important, and it helps recycle grade 3s, which is kind of, in my opinion, it's a win con. Like, hitting a grade 3 on a drive check can really make a big difference. And then more non-negotiable, Die Bazooka. Now, this obviously contributes to our win con of hitting grade 3s, hopefully. And also soul charges. Actually, I'm sorry, I believe that's a typo, right? It's supposed to soul charge, not soul blast on here. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. So, yeah, you want to play that for sure. So, really, because we only have 2 slots in our main deck left, this would be like our quote tech spot. So, in my opinion, it'd be down to either Die Dragon, Die Barret, or this 10k vanilla right here. Or the new card, which is Die Reason, which is essentially an 11k attacker, and then it just gets more power based on the G-Zone. Alright, so we're up to 8. We really can only have 2. Now let me weigh the pros and cons of each. So usually when I start thinking of tech spots, I think in terms of what does this deck struggle against. So in my opinion, D-Robos greatly struggle against decks that can rush you really hard. So while this might be good for like later and being this might be better against control, like these two, because they kind of serve similar purposes, not the same, but similar. These two would be out in my opinion, because this deck against control now is pretty good. Like, you can play down the middle and pretty much be okay. And recover field now, which is awesome. So it'd be between these two for me. For how I play, I like on-hit effects, but I feel kind of weird throwing this into the soul so early and not... I don't know, something about playing this makes me uneasy. So I'd probably play 2 10k vanillas and hopefully ride them to deal with getting rushed. And 2 might not be enough. Maybe... No, 2 is fine. Like, I don't want to see this later in the game. I really only want to see it early, so I'd probably just hopefully keep it. Okay. So that's the main deck I've come up with for now. So to review kind of deck profile-y. 4, 4, 2. That seems pretty standard to me. A lot of D-Robo players seem to be doing this right now. Yeah, that's fine. I'm happy with that. 2 of that, 4 Bazooka, 4 Dijet. I'm also happy with that lineup. The grade 1 seems to be the spot where I'm most uneasy, so I'm going to save that for the end. Triggers are really standard, and Die Hawk is ridiculous. So this is the area that, when I find an area of the deck I really struggle with, I spend a few minutes kind of like mulling in my head what could happen based on how I'm playing it. Okay. The deck definitely needs more Laurel, but that's not an option right now. I'd probably play 3 or 4 Laurel. Probably 4 because one of the win cons of the deck is Die Hawking and having a Laurel on board. But then you risk riding it, so it's a weird catch-22 with Laurel. If you end up riding it, you get severely punished by rush decks. And this deck doesn't have a ton of fight back besides Die Barret options, but I don't really feel comfortable playing Die Barret at this point. I think 2 Weaking is fine. That's perfectly fine. Die Lion in case they try limiting your damage and you can't try and go for Legioning. That's okay too. I'm gonna say for now this is okay, and this would be the point where I'd say, okay, this is like version 1.0 and I have to do some testing. So I'm okay with this build for now. I'll revisit the deck later after trying it out a little bit. So the main deck's done. So usually the last thing I try doing is the Stride Zone. And for the Stride Zone, I find that it's not that hard for me to figure out, but it might end up being a little more challenging than what I think. So in terms of non-negotiable spots, I think you need to play 4 Die Earth now. That's like pretty fair. 4 Die Earth is really good. It's able to recover your field, and that seems okay to me. So that's a non-negotiable. So let me go through some options at this point. Rogue is an option. Sabreeze, option as well. X-Phoenix. I'm just gonna go through the actual Stride Zone, not the G-Guards yet, guys. Tiger, this thing. Dimax, Leon, those are that. Okay, so now let me go one by one. So 4 out of the 16 spots are already occupied. That's cool. I do not think I'd play Excalibur. I do not think it fits into this deck, personally. It does not fit into the win condition. Hitting 35k on the Vanguard with Yuka might be okay-ish, but I still do not feel comfortable playing that. Maybe X-Tiger. I think that's not a bad pick in any D-Robo deck. Any battles. I don't think X-Phoenix does enough for this deck either. And it also, once again, has the same problem. This would have the same problem, in my opinion, in this deck build right now. Sabriz, I don't feel like you have to play this in the slightest. I think with Diehawk now, like, the chicken game is not an issue. You're able to capitalize on it. I would not play Sabriz in this deck, especially that eating through 2 counterblast is pretty rough. Alright, so now, let me see. X-Falcon, no. Don't play that. Blizza, we have so many better options than Blizza. We do not have to play that. If I'm going to play Blizza, I would rather play X-Tiger at that point. So, Leon, Dimax. Phenomenal cards. I feel as if this is really important, and guard break is ridiculous. So, I would play 4. We only have 3 for us today, but we're going to act like it's 4, okay? Dimax. Okay. I feel as if I'd play 4 Dimax as well. But that's me being a little crazy. 4 Dimax, 4 Leon, 4 Earth. I could play more G-Guards. You know what? I'm going to say 2 Dimax for now. I'll revisit in a sec. Oh, I forgot about this. These 2 things. The Cat Lady's not good in this deck. Do not play it. I also would happily rip this card up right now. Stupid art. We have a whole compilation video of us doing this, by the way, that one day will get released. We both hate this card. Omega, very counterblast heavy, and I feel like it doesn't really work in this. I'm not going to go with that either. Alright, so let's say 4-2 for now, okay? Let's go to G-Guards, because there are a lot of options for those. Patriot, Caribou, D-Robos, not D-Robos, just D-Police in general seem to have some pretty good G-Guards. I'm pretty happy with those. Okay. So, Soul Blast 1 card is 5,000 or greater when this unit's placed on the Guardian Circle with cost. 2k. I like GO5. Yeah, I'd play one of this at least. I like this card a lot. So yeah, minimum of 1 of that. X-Caribou is a staple in my opinion in any D-Police deck right now. The ability to give your Vanguard potentially 4k is pretty silly for until the end of turn. And Patriot's just an overall good card for guarding in my opinion. So these 3 are pretty good. I would play a Dismal for a few reasons. In the mirror match where not in the mirror match, but there are matchups where you're going to want to, for one thing, protect Laurel. And for another, if you play against Narukami and they try VMAX and you want to have some sort of out. I feel like I want more G-Guards. Yeah, I kind of want more G-Guards in this deck. I'm going to bump up Caribou to start. Caribou's going up. 5 G-Guards. Interesting. So now I have like this is when I get in this situation, I call it like a flex spot. So realistically, I'm at 4-4-2. I like this card a lot too, though. I have never seen people go into this twice, but it's really good. You typically go into Earth first. And I'm very biased to Earth personally. So I would want that at 4. Let me think. I probably would put in another G guard at this point. I don't feel like I'd play more than one of this, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Patriot might be good at 2. Yeah. So once again, this is like supreme rough draftage right here. But I'm going to say now, this is pretty much what I would come up with as a rough draft, barring some things. So at this point, I would test. And usually what I do after testing is then I analyze. After playing a game, I think to myself, okay, is there something I wanted more of in the stride zone? Like, in this case, like, what do I feel like I'd want to go into Dimax twice? Do I feel like I'm playing too much of anything? Do I think 4 Dire is too much? Do I think 4 Leon is too much? And I kind of go through the steps of thinking, depending on matchups, what would be best and what's in my local metagame and what I might need to do. So, guys, that's pretty much how I make a deck. I go step by step and I think very methodically about what I'm looking to get out of it and what's my win con. So if you have any questions about this and how I approach deck building, feel free to comment. But thank you guys for watching, and be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys.